ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 13th day of October, year of our Lord 2017. Welcome to the John Moore Show. All right, prepper tip of the day. I want to encourage all of you to educate yourself about the earthquakes at La Palma in the Canary Islands. You need to figure out what's going on, the consequences of what could happen from a large earthquake there. You'll find out, as I found out, that in the past, the ridge of rock and dirt facing the east coast of the United States has broke loose, causing a tidal wave that caused severe damage to the east coast of the United States. There is a high likelihood of that happening again. I've been in contact with Professor McCanney to encourage him to write a short article on this. Quite frankly, if I lived on the East Coast, I would be evacuating the East Coast. I found out through private sources that people connected to the government are already doing that privately and quietly. I think it would be well advised for people to consider that if they live anywhere near the East Coast. In fact, my map, the Navy map, I should say, shows damage to the East Coast from flooding due to another reason. But quite frankly, that map would be very accurate in terms of what could happen if a massive earthquake cut loose those thousands of tons of rock and dirt to go into the Atlantic Ocean, causing a tidal wave to move at 761 miles per hour across the Atlantic to damage and wipe out much of the east coast of the United States of America. So your prepper tip of the day is to educate yourself about La Palma and the Canary Islands and what's happened in the past. They had 78 earthquakes in 48 hours. That's never happened since records have been kept. And the Professor McCanney has expressed his concern to me privately about the possibility of a man-made event. There's two ways human beings can create earthquakes I'm aware of. One is the Tesla earthquake generating machine, and also nuclear devices. There may be a third or fourth way, but those are the two I'm aware of that can create earthquakes. So this is serious stuff. If you or somebody you care about lives on the East Coast, those persons need to be aware, need to educate themselves, make their decision what they're going to do. A tidal wave moving across the Atlantic Ocean at 761 miles an hour would take only a very few short hours to get across there and do the damage it's going to do. So words of the wise. If Professor McCanney writes his article, we'll be talking about that. But in the meantime, that's your prepper tip of the day. We have a patient waiting green room, my friend Tom Berryhill. Tom is a gentleman who took the time, made the effort beginning more than 50 years ago to become a licensed ham radio operator. And we're going to talk about emergency survival communications. Good morning, Tom.
Morning, John. How you doing today?
Well, hanging in there. How about yourself, sir?
About the same. Yep.
Okay. Lots of things going on in the world, and many of them involve people in distress. The wildfires in California come to mind. The people going to bed in a normal neighborhood and then dying in their sleep because of the wildfire. There's 31 fatalities so far that we know of. Effective communications could have prevented those deaths, couldn't they?
Well, that's very true, John. That is definitely a situation where communications could play a big part in saving many of those people. You know, I saw some photographs of that area, before and after photographs, and it was shocking, to say the least, what's happened to that area. It's unbelievable.
It is, and it's people need to. If you're in that area near those fires, I believe that people need to be very aware of what's going on. Be sure they monitor whatever services are being used by the firefighting authorities to know where these fires are going, so that they have time to evacuate and take family heirlooms such as legal documents, family photographs, things like that that are difficult, if not impossible, to replace. Tom, you there?
Yeah, I am, John. Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes, that's important. And aside from communications, John, storing important documents like that, what I have seen many times are a small safe room built. Not only a safe for for your cash, guns and jewelry, etc., but a safe room that is built with multiple layers of drywall, and some maybe some masonry components in there as well. But the drywall acts as a really effective barrier for the fire, and then they keep their safe and other items inside of that. So I think that's a good way to go. I have a small setup like that myself.
Right. Well, okay, let's talk about safe rooms a little bit. Typically, a safe room is meant to be a place where people can be safe during a home invasion from criminals. A fire is a whole other matter, though. There's two issues. One is heat. The other is oxygen. You may be successful in maintaining safe levels of heat from the fire on one hand, and there's one more issue I want to bring up. One would be the collapse of the structure on top of the safe room. So that's three things. Or the safe room itself collapsing to a basement if it's built above grade. So this is very serious stuff, and human life is certainly at risk if it's not done properly. I'm not so sure. I would take a number of layers. Firewall is rated to, disregard. Drywall is rated to withstand so much heat for so long before it fails. And I know here at my place we use 5/8 inch thick drywall, which is fire rated. Multiple layers increase the resistance to heat and fire. Concrete it would be a good barrier for heat and fire, but even concrete will fail if exposed to enough heat. It will crack and fail if exposed to enough heat. So I'm more in favor, Tom, quite frankly, of evacuating rather than trusting a safe room, depending on the engineering of the safe room, whether there's an independent supply of oxygen in there, which would be mandatory, because once the O2 is gone, you're dead. It would be a complex engineering problem that would have an expensive, complex engineering solution, wouldn't it, Tom?
Well, that's very true, and my comments about a safe room, I think, are more from building a system or a room that would house your actual metal safe or firearms, valuables, paperwork, things like that, and insulating that the best you can. So that room houses the safe to keep your valuables in, and you don't just rely on the safe itself, even though many of those have drywall layers internally. Some of the systems I've set up have 4 layers of drywall. John, when I leased a commercial building years ago, the regulations, county code and regulations, were firewalls between the units, and they were 2 layers of 5/8 drywall, and then the metal lath that all of that was screwed to, and then that formed the wall about 4 inches thick, and then on the other side the same thing. So between units you had 4 layers of drywall and about a 3.5 or 4 inch airspace. Of course, that's where the conduits and wiring and all that was run. But that was quite effective at preventing fire spreading between these leased units.
Right. Well, protecting property such as firearms, photographs, valuables in a safe room is one thing, because the firearms, legal documents, photographs don't require oxygen. So all the oxygen could be sucked out of there due to a fire, and it would cause no harm at all to the firearms, photographs, legal documents. So people need to keep that in mind, the difference between the two. If you are going to be building a safe room for property, it's one thing. If you're going to build a safe room for people, it's an entirely different matter, isn't it, Tom?
Well, very true, and I agree with your comment on evacuating. Just abandon the premises, take what you can carry immediately that you feel is important, and take your bug-out bag and out the door. Get out of there. And so many of these people in that California disaster didn't do that, and they're no longer with us.
That's right. That's right. It's making assumptions that things are going to be okay in these fast-moving fires. These fires can move 20, 25 miles an hour across these fields and forests, can't they?
Well, yes, very quick. And I've seen grass fires before. Of course, John, we have those in our area here in the Ozarks. Occasionally, a field very dry will catch on fire. I've seen it happen one time from the exhaust system on a car. It set off the dry grass, and that fire spread so fast it was really something to see. So that can happen, and if there's any wind, of course they have their winds out there. That just makes the problem all the worse.
Well, the wind's nonstop. In some of those areas, the wind goes continuously. Yes.
Yes, and all that does is spread the fire all the faster. So I'm sure that's exactly what happened. But just get out. That's the bottom line.
All right. Well, you go to bed. The fire's 10 miles away. If it's moving at 25 miles an hour, so you go to bed at 10 p.m. So at 2 a.m., the fire is there at your place because it's moved at 25 miles an hour. Pretty simple calculation, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, if a fire was 10 miles away from me, I wouldn't even go to bed that night. I'd be thinking about packing up and leaving right now. Get your situation, all your equipment, everything secured. Get things loaded up that you're taking and get out of there. Yeah, and
exactly.
That's where the radio communications comes in, John, because you can start monitoring the fire department frequencies, the emergency responders, police. It's quite handy to have equipment to listen to them and hear where they're being dispatched and their comments as they're on the ground right there.
Absolutely. And so let's talk about what would people need to monitor the fire departments.
Okay. Well, John, first of all, I need to clarify. I gave a model number of a radio last week, and it was in the air. I was trying to go from memory, and I couldn't remember that unit, but I wrote it down, and this is a receiver that I use to listen. Now I listen to very low frequencies, all the way up from 100 kilohertz or so, all the way up to in excess of 1 gigahertz. And the receiver I use is an AOR, AR-DV1. So it's
Delta
Alpha
Victor Romeo. Okay. Delta Victor Romeo 1.
AR, Alpha Romeo dash Delta Victor DV1. So it's AR-DV1, and it's made. The company's name is AOR.
Okay.
And this is a digital. It's a software-defined radio, and it's very small, rather compact. Runs on 12 volts, so you could use it at home It comes with a transformer that plugs in the wall. Also, can be operated in a vehicle on 12 volts, and it's an excellent shortwave receiver. It receives all modes. AM, FM, and that's FM narrowband and wideband. You need narrowband for the communications equipment, two-way radio, and then you need the wideband for the regular broadcast FM, and it receives all of that, and then also the aircraft band, all of the ham radio bands up to 1 gigahertz. I think it actually goes over 1,000 megahertz, which is 1 gigahertz. Goes over that a little bit, but it will listen to all those frequencies. The cell phone frequencies are blocked out. Now, the one that I have, they call them export models. They're used outside the the United States, and those are allowed to pick up those 800 to 900 megahertz range, which where most of the cell phone traffic would be. And the receiver I have, this AOR receiver, does pick up that range. And it allows you to listen to everything except I don't even know why they block those cell phone channels, John, because they're all digital modulation now, and unless you have the proper equipment to decode that, you're not going to hear it anyway.
Well,
you just hear a buzzing noise.
Yeah, that blocking began prior to the digital aspect of this.
Yes, it did, and it just carries forward today.
Right.
So, but you need specialized equipment to decode those. And I actually have some of that equipment too, but that's used for calibration and adjustments on cellular transmission systems and all that. But that's totally outside the scope of this discussion. But that receiver, that AOR receiver, would be fantastic for anybody that's in a preparedness situation where they want to have something that's small, compact, very sensitive, and can pick up nearly every type of transmission. Now, this thing will listen to AM, FM, single sideband, CW, which is Morse code, and then it also will pick up the various digital modulation modes, as well as the P25, which is what many of the police radio systems have gone to these days. So that's the digital modulation mode, and this unit will receive that, as well as some of the ham radio digital modes that are being used by Yaesu and ICOM and so on. It's very effective for that, and it will determine automatically what mode is being used and lock in on that signal.
Amazing. Here's our break. Call number is 800-313-9443. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 13th day of October. Visiting with Tom Berryhill, we're talking about emergency survival communications. Tom, I found a used unit here on Amazon, on eBay, for the AR-DV1. It's right at $1,000 with shipping included. It says great condition, used. What does one of these things go for new? Any idea? Well,
they're over $1,000. I'd say maybe $1,200 to $1,300, somewhere in that range. And I paid less than $1,000. Mine was used, but John, it was like brand new. I think they plugged it in and tried it out and put it back in the box. All the packing material, the plastic wrapper, everything was there, and it works just perfect. I could look and check, but it was less than, I think it was maybe 920 or something with shipping and all.
Right.
It's a lot to spend. It is really a lot to spend. But if somebody is really serious about this, that is an excellent receiver.
Right. Well, I wish I'd talked to you before I bought my Bearcat receiver, which I paid just about that much money for. It's got, I think, 20,000 pre-programmed frequencies in it. It's a great unit, but this one here looks like it may have some capability that the Bearcat does not.
Well, the Bearcat radios were very popular for years, and just the fact that it has all those frequencies pre-programmed is a plus, no doubt about it. John, I believe this AOR receiver can actually be programmed from a spreadsheet, so you could set up a spreadsheet with what do they call it? Comma-separated values, and you could have all your frequencies and all that information, and then just download it into the receiver. There is a data port on there, and there's also an SD card on the front. You plug the little card in, and you can have this receiver. You can not only monitor, you can have it continuously recording what you're hearing, so you can keep a copy of it. I'm not sure, but I think it rolls over. So however many gigabytes of data space you have on that SD card, it just fills it up, and then I believe it just rolls over and starts recording again. I've only used that function a couple of times to try it out, and it worked quite well.
Right. I see the slot on the front there for the SD card, which, what's the maximum storage space currently on an SD card?
Well, I think I saw one that was 128 gigabytes.
My goodness.
A lot.
That's a lot.
I do know. I use on some of the equipment I have here. I've used 16 and 32 gigabyte SD cards on some of the machine tools that I have. They use those for data transfer, and I just took one of those and plugged it in this receiver, and it worked fine. So,
all right. Well, even 32 gigabytes would hold many, hundreds of hours of audio?
I would think so, yes.
Right.
It's amazing. This receiver is a serious piece of equipment. It's quite small, not very big. But if anybody's really sensitive to that price, I think just wait a while. If you have time on your hands, wait, and it will be copied, and there'll be Chinese versions coming out soon enough. They seem to take everything and copy it and make it a little cheaper. I don't know how well it would work. Like John, my feelings about those Chinese walkie-talkies, HTs, whatever you want to call them, they're not really the best. But this AOR receiver it meets the standards that are required for proper reception of these.
I just got a note from my engineer that last year SanDisk released a SD card that holds 1 terabyte of data.
Okay, well, there you go. I'm not certain if this AOR receiver would even be able to.
Is that 1,000? Is terabyte 1,000 gigabytes or 1,000,000? I don't know.
Well, I think it's 1,000, John. So that would.
Okay.
But sometimes sometimes the equipment has to be able to address that card. I don't know if this AOR receiver would even talk to a card that large, but I know It works on a 32. Fine.
Chances are they're compatible. Here's our bottom of the hour break. Call numbers 800-313-9443.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. I've worked with men and women involved in the high-end shelters for years. With the Ozark Survival Homestead, you get things you don't get with the high-end shelters. You get a opportunity to be in the bunker, of course. You also get a home, a 60 by 90 lot. You get your storable food, your livestock share, your garden, greenhouse share, your seed bank share. One person to have everything they need, right at $25,000. For a family of three, $37,000. You really need to check this out. It's very unique. At my website, you'll see the Ozark Survival Homesteads on the left side of my homepage. Go there, read that one page, fill out the form with your name, your email address, and your telephone number, and I will forward that to the guys and gals at the Ozark Survival Homesteads. Check it out. You'll be very glad you did. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion on my show from now until August. If you mail me a postcard, you may get the opportunity to buy an energy cleaner for $70 off retail. $200 of the purchase price goes to Republic Broadcasting. We have a drawing for this promotion every other Thursday. The details are at my website. Just click on the orange sticker on the right side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. Thank you very much for listening, and hope you can get those postcards in. Have a great day. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 13th day of October. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. We have new images of continents with new coastlines. One is from the Smithsonian Television Channel, Aerial America, and the other is the 1997 film Contact. They're both excellent images, and you need to check those out. If you like to watch television shows and movies, keep a sharp eye out for images of continents with new coastlines. When you find one, get the screen capture to me. You get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs as a thank you. It's a fun project, and everybody can participate. Also, my website, of course, are energy cleaners for sale. Marvelous healing devices. That's what they are. I use mine every night. I just had a 4,000-mile road trip. Sometimes driving as much as 13, 14 hours in one day, and wrap up the day actually feeling pretty good because I had an energy cleaner pad on the seat of the automobile. Check out the details at my website, the patent application information, the wonderful testimonials. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do from me to you personally, a 30-day money-back guarantee with the energy cleaner. Only $285 shipping included, American zip codes. Yes, I do take PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online. MasterCard, Visa, checks can be sent to my address at thelibertyman.com. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads. I just took delivery of 4 more yesterday. This is my home business. I reconfigure the mattress pads. I box up the energy cleaners. I take them to the little country post office in Cherryville, Missouri. I do all that myself. Toll-free our line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Tom Berryhill. We're talking about emergency survival communications. And Tom, on Drudge, they're saying that there's 31 fatalities and more than 460 people missing in these California fires. Firefighters reporting nothing but ash and bones left in the where the people were burned up.
Right, story. John.
Right.
Some of these 400 some odd people missing will turn up. They're just nobody knows where they are. They'll turn up safe, right, maybe at a relative, but I think many of those are also going to be accounted for in those piles of ashes. It's really sad, but that's the way it's going to be.
And it's so here we are in 2017. You can pick up a telephone and talk to somebody on the other side of the planet instantly. So communications is instant, immediate communications is not an issue. The issue is people not taking advantage of what's right at their fingertips, isn't it, Tom?
That's correct. Now, the cell phones, of course, are one of the best ways, but in a disaster like that in California, John, that's definitely going to take down many of the cell towers. I mean, they're pretty rugged, but they can't withstand a fire like that. No, nothing can. And and that will put them off the air. So the cell phone companies will bring in portable towers to get service back in that area pretty quick, but during the disaster itself, while that's all taking place, sometimes I'm no fan of these HTs. I don't care for them that much, but that is the perfect situation for using one right during an emergency like that. That's when they can be put to use, because they are good for short-range communications, to stay in touch with somebody that's less than a mile away, and you're trying to relocate and keep everybody rounded up at the same time. They're perfect for that. I really think, John, a mobile unit, a higher power mobile radio in a vehicle is better. And there's even ways to set up portable repeater systems in a vehicle. We've done that in the past, and that's another thing that can be set up. But basically, just point-to-point communications using maybe several higher power mobile radios, and then maybe a small fleet of HTs or handheld radios would take care of that situation when you're trying to relocate. But you need to leave those units on, keep the volume up, have the receiver squelched or your tone squelch system, and then when somebody in your network comes on the frequency with the emergency information, you can respond as needed, which might just mean helping them out or packing up and getting out. So those radios are very handy for that. And of course, it starts by getting involved in a ham radio club to learn about taking the test, what's required, how to get the study materials, and usually these ham radio clubs will actually give you the test, and you'll be issued your FCC license and call sign, and you're on the air. It's that easy. I say it's that easy, but it is relatively easy compared to when I had to do it 50 years ago. It was incredibly difficult in the old days. But they've relaxed the rules and regulations, and it's a lot easier today to get involved and get on the air.
Yes. Well, I went through that myself. The fall of 1994, I was I was head of security for the Missouri anti-gambling campaign and putting in long hours, but I still took whatever little time I had to study for my ham radio test, and I took it and passed it. So that's 23 years ago. And people can do this. We routinely have 8 and 10-year-old boys and girls taking these tests and passing them, don't we?
Oh, all the time. Yes, there's a lot of young people involved in this. And John, when you're much younger like that, you really soak it up quickly, and it sticks with you, and you develop an interest in this at a young age. And you take somebody like that, boy or girl, even less than 10 years old, and you give them this information and help them get started, they'll really advance quickly, and by the time they're an adult, they will have a technical knowledge that's second to none, because you can learn as you go from this. A lot of people just want to get involved in ham radio to talk and things like that, contact other stations, while some get involved to learn the technical side of it. I always personally got involved in the technical side. I don't actually use the radio that much anymore, but I am quite involved in the technology side of it. So it was a good training a source of materials for me. It worked quite well in my case.
Right. Well, this can be a family hobby that mom and dad and the children can all participate in, and the children like doing adult things. It gives them a feeling of self-importance that is genuinely earned. It's not just given to them or gifted to them. They have to earn that license, and it can be fun. It's not terribly expensive, and there's a serious side, of course, as well, that the hobby and the fun can be used to save lives. Right, Tom?
Very true. Very true. And you're right, John. It's inexpensive to get started. It doesn't take a lot of equipment. I mean, you can buy one of those Chinese walkie-talkies for $30 and actually get started with that. But many times that leads to nothing but frustration because the range is so limited. That's why I've always advised anybody getting started like this they can get one of those, and it's great to have, but really get yourself a higher power radio. You're not talking that much money. I mean, many times if you can scrape together between $200 and $300, you can purchase a used unit that's all set up and ready to go. That would be a VHF and UHF dual band radio. Sometimes many start with just a single band, which would be VHF or 2-meter amateur band, and that would get you on with local ham operators. You'd be able to talk locally, and sometimes 50 or 60 miles can be accomplished with another station that's a base station with a higher antenna. That works quite well. But from car to car, you can talk maybe 10, 15 miles in some cases, depending on your elevation. If you're in a valley, and that's going to really restrict the range. But that's how you would get started, and then you can study a little more and advance to the next class of license, which is a general class. You start with a technician, and you can go to general class. And then that allows you to get on the HF bands, which is the shortwave bands, and that's where you have your worldwide communications. And that's what I typically focus on, John, because my main interest is when it hits the fan, I want regional communications. I want to be able to receive information, and I want to be able to communicate on a regional basis. And by regional, I mean like maybe a 300-mile radius. So that's what I'm interested in, and I know many other ham operators are also interested in this. There's networks on the HF bands, on the shortwave bands. There's ham radio networks that focus on this very topic, and they do regular drills and tests, and they have networks that are on the air, in some cases daily, to where these stations can stay in touch and make sure their equipment's up and operating properly.
Well, I should give people some peace of mind knowing that all these things are in place, ready to be used of. All you need to do is make the decision to make use of them. Avail yourself of the deep levels of knowledge in these ham radio clubs. I think the average ham radio operator is, 65, 70 years old, Tom, or older?
Well, yes, I think that's true, but there are a lot of younger people involved. John, when the cell phones came on the scene, everybody wanted to tinker with those, and it's like having a computer in your hand, your pocket, and you can operate this thing and, like you said earlier, make a phone call to the other side of the world in seconds. I mean, nobody wants to mess with the ham stuff too much when you can do something like that. Right. But when that system is down, there's a tremendous infrastructure that's required. It's huge and very complex, and that's what's required to make those little handheld phones operate. And that's what frustrates some of the new ham operators. They already have a smartphone, and they can operate that thing almost anywhere. But then they get this small HT or walkie-talkie, and it doesn't go that far, and they just don't understand that the infrastructure is right there in your hand right now. You're talking from that radio to another one, unless there's a repeater system in the middle. And a repeater now is a fixed station that's on a tall tower or a tall building that receives the weak signal from that handheld radio or a weak mobile unit and retransmits it on another frequency to greatly extend the range. Those are quite handy, but there's another infrastructure situation. And, of course, focusing on when it hits the fan, I wouldn't want to have to rely on a repeater system or the cell phone system, because they will be just flooded with people using them. And if the electricity is out, well, then you're really in trouble, because that repeater won't work. The cell phone systems do have their tower systems do have backup generators. They all have them, and battery backup on some of them as well. But unless it's a relatively small cell tower or repeater system with batteries and solar cells, it's not going to be on the air very long. When the fuel runs out that generator, it's shut down. And there'll be a lack of service availability because so many people will be using it at the same time. And then the cell phones will most likely be shut down for the average user, with only local, state, and federal government users being allowed on them. That they are programmed that way, and they can be used in that manner. So, got to keep that in mind. Now, the ham radio equipment, you have an HF system. You could talk to somebody across town, across the street, into another state, and you wouldn't be restricted by any type of infrastructure, because that infrastructure is right there in your control. It's your radio to the other radio, whether it be on the other side of the world or across town. And this way you'd be able to stay in touch and keep the information flowing. You'd be able to help out those in your local area that needed to check on their family and in other areas. And this would allow you to be really a very helpful person in your community.
That's right. That's right. Well, what I emphasize a lot, Tom, is that whether you have a group of 6 people or 600, the 2 skills during a crisis in biggest demand and shortest supply will be emergency medical treatment skills and ham radio skills. If you have one or both of those, you've made yourself a very important person in that group of 6 or 600, a person whose skills will literally help save lives, Tom.
That's very true. And, John, there is, especially in these rural areas, there is a lot of interest with the local agencies that provide emergency services for the county. I know in my local area here, I was allowed to take a tour of their facility. A friend of mine is on the 9/11 board, and he took me on a tour of their facility. And the lady that's in charge of it, when she found out I was a ham radio operator, she says, "Oh, well, we have one of those." And she went in the storeroom and brought the box out, brand new piece of equipment in the box. They don't know how to hook it up.
Right.
I guess it came with a grant. They had a federal grant or something, and the equipment was supplied, but they're quite interested in getting this set up. So that may happen here in the near future. I told them I'd be glad to help. And that's what the ham operators usually do. They want to help out the local community. And as a matter of fact, that's a condition of obtaining that federal license, John, is that you do need to offer your services if you're able to do it and help out. And I've never met a ham operator that wasn't willing to do that. They all want to help. Sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes especially in a larger metropolitan area, the police departments and the emergency people, they don't really need a lot of help. They do have very sophisticated systems, and they seem to work well most of the time unless the power goes out. That's when the ham operators come in, because they have simpler equipment that is easier to deploy and set up with batteries and solar cells and so on, and they can help if necessary. But I know in these rural areas, they tend to be a little bit less sophisticated, and the ham operators are usually well received.
That's right. Here's our break. Call number is 800-313-9443. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. We are working on Friday the 13th day of October. Tom, I got a great Friday the 13th story for you.
Okay.
On Friday the 13th, my high school football team won its 13th game in a row, 13-12.
That's pretty good, John.
We thought so.
Yeah. Did that make the local news? I'm sure it did.
Well, of course, those scores made the local news all the time, but that was our story. Well, we need to encourage people, Tom, to wake up and smell the coffee. There's no place on this planet that's completely safe from all natural disasters, is there?
That's true. That's true. And you need, if you have one ham radio, well, you need two, because if there's a problem with one, you need something to back it up. And you got to start somewhere. And of course, the first step is the most important thing to do, and that's to maybe go online and search for ham radio clubs in your local area. If you're in a major metropolitan area, you'll find several. In rural areas, you might have to travel a little bit, but you will find them, and these ladies and gentlemen will be very interested in helping you to get started. They'll share stories about how they got started, and it's easier than ever before, John. Back in the old days, you had to learn Morse code. You had to have some pretty good technical background. I remember taking one of the tests. I had to actually draw a schematic or part of a transmitter, and that was amazing. I don't believe any of that's required anymore. It's all multiple choice, and it's and the reason for this is the equipment has become more reliable and simpler to operate. In the old days, you had to know all about how to neutralize the transmitter stages and harmonic radiation, all kinds of things that aren't as important today because the equipment is so reliable. So it's because of that, they've made it easier to get involved and to get that license. So it's just not a huge thing to take some time, do the studying, and get started. And you're right, John, about earlier you said entire families get involved. I've seen this many, many times. And then they have ham fest. It's like a flea market for ham radio operators. All types of equipment, and even the equipment manufacturers will set up displays there, and it's a great thing to go to one of those, even if you're not a ham operator, to learn about it and meet others, and you'll find people that know about the various clubs that would be more than willing to help you get started. So that's a good first step to take, is to check online and then also maybe go to a local ham fest. And then there's websites that actually have the ham fest listings, and you can go in there and search for your state and local area and find out when the next one would be, and that would be a wise thing to do. You'll be able to see all types of equipment, new and old, and see what's available, and maybe even purchase something while you're there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's an entire subculture that stretches from sea to shining sea and actually all over the planet. Tom, thank you, sir. We'll have you back next week. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Okay, that's it for this hour. We'll be back next hour with Dr. Phil Myers. We'll talk about health-related matters. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 13th day of October. Prepper tip of the day. I want to encourage all of you to, especially those who are on the East Coast or have people they care about on the East Coast of the United States, educate yourself about La Palma. That's the Canary Islands, La Palma. There's been recently 78 earthquakes in 48 hours, unprecedented since they've kept records. We do know that in the past, a violent, severe earthquake has caused thousands of tons of rock and dirt to fall into the Atlantic Ocean, creating a tidal wave that went all the way across the Atlantic at 761 miles per hour, the speed of sound, causing massive devastation on the East Coast of the United States. Of course, this is before Caucasians were in the picture in North America. The possibility exists that it could happen again. It does exist. And my friend Professor McCanney has expressed his concern about either a natural occurring earthquake or a man-made earthquake happening in the not-too-distant future. So your prepper tip of the day is to educate yourself about these matters and then make your decision. If you live on the East Coast, have people you care about live on the East Coast, whether or not you're going to evacuate until those earthquakes subside. That's your prepper tip of the day. We have a patient waiting in the green room, my friend Dr. Phil Myers, D.C. Dr. Myers is my personal physician He's a chiropractic physician living and working in my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri. Easy way to get started with Dr. Myers. Here's all you need to do. Call his office, set up that first private, no-charge consultation. That office telephone number is 314-878-6868. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, John. How's today going for you?
Well, it's close to perfect as weather can be, quite frankly, anything except swimming. But other than that, it's perfect weather for being outdoors. How about yourself, sir?
It's good. Yeah, the polar bear people love to do that. Get out in the cold water.
They're welcome to it. My spring-fed swimming pool stays at constant 58, 59 degrees, and 8- and 9-year-olds don't mind getting in there and turning blue, but adults typically don't care for that too much. Yes, but
no, kids don't mind that at all, do they? Their teeth are chattering like crazy, and they're just like, "I'm good."
Oh yeah. The kids are you gotta love them. Of course, you and I were the same way when we were children.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Doctor, a lot going on in the world, and a lot of. I was just reading on Drudge Report how if you can believe it, how the levels of American obesity continue to climb, and it's something I've started noticing. You may be noticing it also. People referring to height, weight, proportionate people, especially women, as being skinny. When I look at these height, weight, proportionate women, and I'm thinking to myself, well, they look normal to me. But when 7 out of 10 Americans are overweight, they have become normal, haven't they?
Well, it's interesting. There's this whole aspect of honoring yourself, which I'm 100,000,000,000,000% behind, and seeing your own self-image as true, good, and beautiful. And again, I'm 1,000,000,000,000,000,000,000,000% behind that. What is crazy about it is there's a smoke screen within that. Is yes, honor yourself. See yourself as true, good, and beautiful. Totally. However, the body shape that your system's taking on, the health status of respiration rate, heart rate variability, stuff that no one looks at. It's just like looking at your teeth. The only reason some people would actually look at their teeth is because they want to smile, and it's like, oh yeah, you got to take care of your teeth. But like in chiropractic, we always say, hey, if you were to be able to see your spine like you see your teeth, you'd probably take better care of it.
Right.
And this kind of goes along the same line. So I'm glad you're 250 pounds, 5'6". Got it. And you are seeing yourself as true, good, and beautiful, and you're honoring your shape, and you're honoring who you are as a human being. I get that. I'm 100%. But at the same time, the lifestyle of sickness and disease and pollution and the way our human bodies are mutating into taking on the environmental pollution, and you're seeing it in your heart rate variability issue, which means your heart rate is flying up and down just when you're just sitting there chilling. And your respiratory rate, your ability to detoxify metals, bacteria, fungal molds. Yeah, you might be able to live in the degenerative octave of your cellular body for 20, 40, 50, 60 years, but eventually it's going to kick your butt, and you're going to be in the sickness model. Yeah, great, you honor yourself. And you honor your shape, and you honor your self-worth and all that. And I totally get that. Here's the thing. We as a society need to start living our optimal potential at the same time as honoring our self-beingness. And those two things are not jiving right now within society. We're honoring ourselves. We're saying, okay, yeah, I'm obese, or I'm curvy. I get that. And changing the words, making everything sound better. Get it. Totally got it. But at the same time, when I had an extra 20 pounds on my body, I was still honoring myself. But as I started honoring my truest and highest potential and living the lifestyle that potential honors, then I think from my standpoint, from where I'm at, you're living a higher authenticity.
Well, these are wise words for people to absorb and pay heed to, Doctor. You can honor yourself and be overweight is one thing, but long term, I was visiting with some relatives over the past 2 weeks, and there's some issues with some of these folks in the caring, being morbidly obese, and long term, it's going to have very disastrous consequences for your health, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. It's eventually going to catch up with you, and we need to start honoring the lifestyle as well as the self-image. And here's the thing. When I talk to people about surrender, when I talk about letting go, when I talk about all this work on honoring your truest nature, one of the things that I'm always telling people and sharing with them is the fact of, if you're looking outside of yourself, as if this person, place, thing, and your own self-image, if you're looking at that as if this would do that, then I would be this, then you're still projecting out. And what I'm sharing here, and this is not just me, but this is a humongous shift in consciousness around the planet and in a lot of different places, that it's becoming like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was like, wow, that's so new agey stuff right there, man. But we're seeing it. This actually fits within the physics, the actual anatomy, the actual physiology, the actual life force energy that creates your trees and your seeds and your fruits and your vegetables and your heart and your brain and your shoulder and your big toe. It's all coming into an understanding that this isn't esotericism. This isn't some woo-hoo space age Star Trek type of thinking here. I mean, we're literally, from a technological standpoint, I'm going off on a tangent here for a second. We're from a technological standpoint about 15 or 25 years from actually having a physical warp drive. I'm
not sure what that means. A physical
to actually squish. What's that?
What is a physical warp drive? I don't know what that means.
So a warp drive is the ability to collapse space so that time comes together. And if you're going to travel from one location in time to another location in time by utilizing certain mechanics, which we have the physics for, and we literally have the physical mathematics for it. And there's actually people on the planet creating devices that actually do these things. Like, there's actually a device on the planet right now that can create it's a very small, I mean, it's teeny weeny, itty little bitty right now, but it's enough negative space energy to collapse space from the outside in. and shorten it to a place where time comes from two different locations, comes together, and that you can then go into that space and travel from the one location to the other location without a huge amount of travel time. And that's what we call a warp drive. And we're actually 15 to 25 years from now to actually having the bigger ones, to actually a human being could cross it. And that's actually real. These are actually in laboratories right now happening. And, I mean, yeah, it sounds really crazy. But if I were to go to a person 150 years ago and told the horse and buggy driver, hey, in a little bit you're going to be able to get into a car in California, and there's not going to be anybody driving it. There's not going to be a horse. It's just going to be this thing of metal with four wheels on it and a computer. What the hell is a computer? Because a computer wasn't even invented then. And this computer is going to have the navigation system and the know-how to keep in its lane, to properly speed itself, and take you to your destination safe and sound. And they would have looked at you like you're nuts.
Well, of course they would.
And the thing is, we're in the same space now. So when I say, and other people along the line say that, hey, in 15, 25 years, we're going to have a warp drive, and you're going to be able to go from New York to California in less than 3 seconds. That's pretty dang cool. No, forget about going from here to Mars, where we set up a colony, or here to Alpha Centauri in a week instead of 30,000 light years from now. And it's like, wow, that's really crazy, but it's actually real. And when we talk about these types of technologies, and I bring it back to what we're talking about with obesity and lifestyle, it's understanding that there is a physical, mathematical equation and a reality behind the infinite potential that you have to live. And if you start living the lifestyle of that potential energy, along with owning your own true identity, which is beyond your own self-image, is beyond the people, places, and things and events outside of yourself, but actually is within your own big S self, which is minus the storyline of I'm this, that, or the other, and if I would just be this, that, or the other, do this, this, and that, then I would be this, that, and the other. And really seeing that you are the big S, that you are the big kahuna, that you are the captain of your ship. Oh, captain, my captain. I mean, poets have been talking about it for years. And it's a reality. From a physics standpoint, a mathematical standpoint, it's actually real. We're no longer a society believing that the world is flat, or that we live in a 2D world, or that anything is less than the whole. And for us as a world to still have belief structures and lifestyles that still live in 2D, when everything around us is way more than just a two-dimensional space, it really amplifies our ability to really live the lifestyle of true abundance. And it goes, and when you start doing that, your body shape, your mind energy, your actions, the doings of your daily life will change, not just will, but change so drastically. It literally looks like night versus day, in the darkest of dark and the brightest of brights, from the life that you had been living to the potential that you have to live. And so I believe that if, as we as a world, as a society, as first as an individual, start owning the lifestyle. So, like, for example, back in, like, the East, Japanese, Chinese cultures and stuff like that, their lifestyle was oneness. Whereas the West, lifestyle does not fit into oneness.
No,
and
not
then
at all.
And then you're set, and then you just tell a person, hey, you know what? It'd be a great idea if you just got off dairy, and they look at you like you just told them to do something really crazy.
I know. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 13th day of October, visiting with Dr. Phil Myers. You too can access the same level of expertise that I do. All you need to do is call Dr. Myers' office, set up that first private, no-charge consultation on the telephone. His office telephone number is area code 314-878-6868. Let's continue, Doctor.
So we have this mind energy that we use every single day. And so we as a society, as an individual, it would behoove you to start collapsing the energy systems that you have put in place that puts everything outside of you as the reasons that need to change, and start coming back into your center. We've talked about the breathing techniques that do that, the sunning and cupping techniques that do that, the hot-cold alternating showers that help with the immune system to do that, the eating standpoints to do that. And those, again, are lifestyles that live in the higher degree of wellness and health. And, again, telling a person, hey, you know what? Glandular secretions from another mammal may not work so well with your physiology. And, I mean, you say that, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then someone gives you a hunk of cheese on a piece of bread with some sauce on it, and you're like, ooh, that sounds good, and you eat it.
Right.
And because the whole mind energy of it is changed. It's like, oh, but it's cheese. and cheese tastes good, and we have all these neurochemicals and things, and it's hard to change a behavior. It literally takes 80 days to formulate a new habit. And it takes about 160 days to break an old habit. So the first 80 days of anything really is hard. And then after that 80 days, you now formulated a habit, and you're halfway through breaking old habits. So you still got another 80 days or so to really break the old habit. Now, 80 days, you've now formulated a new habit. Another 80 days, you've now collapsed the old habit. Now what's left? Continually to live the new habit minus the momentum or influx that the old habit or the addiction was leading you into, or that you were holding on to, because cheese tastes so good. It's awesome. And I mean, have you ever had cheese? It's really good. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is it's an addiction, and we're addicted to a lot of things. And when we want to really start, but like I said, back in the East, in those cultures, changing the lifestyle was easy because the lifestyle was the life. Whereas now we're living lifestyles that are totally incongruent with vitality. And we put good, intensive thoughts on top of garbage to make us, and I say this lovingly because I've done it myself, make us feel better about ourselves. But who are you making feel about yourself? It's the little s, the story.
Hold that thought, Doctor. Hold that thought. We have a break. The call number is 800-313-9443.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. I've worked with men and women involved in the high-end shelters for years. With the Ozark Survival Homestead, you get things you don't get with the high-end shelters. You get a opportunity to be in the bunker, of course. You also get a home, a 60 by 90 lot. You get your storable food, your livestock share, your garden, greenhouse share, your seed bank share. One person to have everything they need, right at $25,000. For a family of three, $37,000. You really need to check this out. It's very unique. At my website, you'll see the Ozark Survival Homesteads on the left side of my homepage. Go there, read that one page, fill out the form with your name, your email address, and your telephone number, and I will forward that to the guys and gals at the Ozark Survival Homesteads. Check it out. You'll be very glad you did. Thank you very much. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 13th day of October. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. I was in Metro Denver, Johnstown, Colorado, Tuesday evening, speaking to a nice group of folks. We had about 40 people there that come from the surrounding areas. And had a great time visiting and speaking to the group. Don't know when we'll be doing it again, possibly in the spring of 2018. At my website, you'll find that we have new images of North America with new coastlines. The TV show of the Smithsonian Channel they did a show recently showing what North America looked like allegedly 100 million years ago. Aerial America is that show. And the 1997 movie Contact, a couple of great images there of North America with new coastlines. If you watch television and movies, if you find an image of a continent with new coastlines, get a screen capture, get that to me, and as a thank you, you get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs as a thank you. Also, my website is my home business, The Energy Cleaner. When you place your order, I'm the guy that packs them up and takes them to the little country post office in Cherryville, Missouri. If you order a mattress pad, I'm the guy that reconfigures the pad, packs them up, and takes them to the Cherryville post office. It's a healing device. We focus on getting a great night's sleep and pain mitigation. That's what we focus on. If you have arthritis pain, it will probably help. Joint pain, back pain, probably help. Keep in mind, I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. You study up on it at my website at thelibertyman.com. Make your decision to get your energy cleaner, your mattress pad to go with it. Keep in mind, I take PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online, MasterCard, Visa. Checks can be sent to my address at thelibertyman.com. I have a toll-free hour line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Dr. Phil Myers. If you want to get started with Dr. Myers, gain access to this expertise, all you need to do is call his office, set up that first private, no-charge consultation. That office telephone number is 800, no, it's not, 314-878-6868, 314-878-6868. The 800 number is to call in here live on the show. That's 800-313-9443. Let's continue, Dr. Myers.
So why am I getting on everybody's case this morning, it sounds like, is because the reality that's going to show, that is already here, that's showing up in the world, is, you have to have good mind energy, but you also need to strengthen the physical body just as much as you do the mind body. And you need to continue feeding the physical body and the mind body healthy energy. So if you have great mind energy but a horrible out-of-shape system, then you're going to have incongruency. If you have a really great in-shape system but you're feeding it horrible energy, then your body's going to eventually collapse. The three categories, basically mind energy, body energy, and chemical energy, all have to work, basically be able to triangulate themselves within the structure that they work in, which is your body, which is your totality. And so, there's going to be wonderful, amazing things happening in the world, and it's all going to require you being at your highest and greatest potential. It's going to require you letting go of the old constraints, the old belief systems that you grew up with, that have been taught to you since the moment of your conception, because your parents were running that program. So obviously, in the grand scheme of the genetic code, it's already in your programmed DNA. And so we then have to then work on our own self at even that level to build our systems up, which is totally doable. I mean, we do it every day. We call it epigenetic mutation. You eat this food over that food, you're going to change your genetic code. I mean, it's easy. I mean, the whole MTHFR gene mutation, which is actually not a gene mutation, but it's actually just a decoherency or an inability of communication to happen between one cellular system and another cellular system to create energy. So you can have great vitality and good immune system work. Again, you can completely, I change it every day just from changing neurological function with the attunement processes that I do with people. So all these things are able to be, quote unquote, rectified to bring them back into coherence, and I like to use the word coherence versus balance, because you can have balance in a decoherent system. So, whereas a coherency is everything's beaconing at its highest and greatest potential and is rooted in source. That's coherency. Versus balance, balance is kind of it can be either or. You can be balanced in the complete negative but not be in coherency. So I like to use the word coherency versus balance with a lot of things.
Okay.
So this is very important to start doing for yourselves. So right now, literally, right now, start adding something to change lifestyle. Whatever it is. And the thing is, I'm talking about this thing right now, and some people out there, and it doesn't matter, it's like, wow, that's so much stuff. I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired, even thinking about changing to all of that. Oh my God, are you seriously kidding me? No way. So you have to literally take it in baby steps. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
Right.
It's you start adding a little bit and just add momentum to your life. If you're grieving something, start letting go of the small little things. Like, for example, let's just say your best friend or favorite relative or close parent died, and they're no longer here, and you're stuck in grief. Start surrendering little bits, like, oh, wow, that phone call, I would talk to him every day. Just let go of the phone call. Wow, the Thanksgiving dinner was so amazing. You start letting go of the expectation of what Thanksgiving was to you and like what Thanksgiving actually is all about. And remember, and I'm going to sound really esoteric here now, is no one actually dies. Your cellular body, so think of it, cell doesn't actually die. It just goes down an octave from a human being to a system to a organ to a tissue, from a tissue to a cell, from a cell to an atom, from an atom to a proton, from a proton to a Planck's point, which is a really, 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 really teeny tiny piece of information. You can fit 100 trillion of those inside of an atom. And it just keeps going down and down and down in an octave. But the structure of the life force energy behind it never, ever, ever loses itself. So all the way down to the information that space entails. We never actually die. We just transmutate. Now, you can, as a human being, continue amplifying your vitalistic cells and then keep growing the structure of space-time and keep expanding on it at a higher and higher and higher and higher octaves. Or you can continue living in the state of degeneration and see those octaves slowly slowing down. And we see that all the time. Cancer, POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia, strokes, Alzheimer's, MS, irritable bowel, Crohn's disease, you name it. Inflammation, swelling, redness, tenderness, and pain, lack of range of motion. It's all signs of the cellular system losing its octave and living out of coherency. And so the world, the universal structure, is basically forcing the environment. The structure of space-time itself is shifting so much into coherency. Decoherency is no longer an option. And so as this starts changing, if you're living a lifestyle that is more in decoherent behavioral structures, you're going to, quote-unquote, struggle more with the shift. And the shift has already happened. We've been talking about this since last September, 2016, when it really deviated in terms of its energy field from the old to the new. It's been a full year, and look what happened this year. Holy cow! The amount of energetic shift, the amount of technological advancements just in this year alone was more than the past 5 years combined. And so, like I said a couple shows, maybe a month ago in shows, I said that don't be surprised when we go from rotary phones to flying cars, and that warp drives are going to be available in the next 25 years. That's in a lot of our lifetimes. And the thing is, our life expectancy is only going to get larger. But here's the cool part. Your life expectancy is going to get longer, but you're going to be in more coherency than you are currently now. So you're going to start seeing that you're not only living longer, but you're living more vitalistically. And everyone else around you is also doing that. And as that starts building up in momentum, and we start all radiating the vibrant, radiant energy of that coherency, that is going to literally change the planet. And it's like, so, well, then the question always comes out, well, how many people is it going to take? Well, it's not that simple, because everybody holds different energy. Back in the day, long time ago, the monks had to stay on the mountain and literally stay in a room and hold the consciousness level at a higher coherency for the planet, because the planet was so decoherent. It was sad. But now, look at it now. Where are all those monks? They're now on YouTube. They're now teaching. They're now teaching on the temples. They're now in the. They're now in the schools. They're actually in the books now, because the global consciousness of coherency has amped itself up. So they don't have to hold the space, because we're holding the space now. And now what's going to start happening is the global consciousness of it all is going to amp up even more. And so the more you, for example, how many people is this going to take? It might just take you. It might take you just letting go of one anger story. It might take you letting go and believing that you can do something for yourself and the environment around you in a loving, caring, empathetic way. It just might take you doing that one thing to completely take on what would have taken 1 million people 15 years ago to do. So it's not about how many people, it's about what you do. And some people might say, well, okay, I'll just wait till everybody else does and I'll just reap the benefit. It doesn't work that way. A decoherency in a state of coherence or surrounded by coherency has only two options: leave or join the party. So like I said, it's going to start taking your action to really start seeing the differences, because the differences are going to happen with you or without you.
That's right. That's right, Doctor. Well, getting it narrowed down to two options should help people, shouldn't it?
Yeah, you'd think, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
It's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah,
it's a 50-50 shot. But here's the cool part. In here, you want to know what the cool part about this is? You don't have to do any of this. You have free will. You have free will, free choice. You are free to totally do anything that you hold your mind's attention to and reap the benefits of it. Whether you believe you can or not, there's always that. You do not have to, and like I said, we never die, but then you just eventually will come back and learn the lesson again.
That's right. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. More here on Friday the 13th day of October. We're visiting with Dr. Phil Myers. You also can get started with Dr. Myers. It's simple, doesn't cost you anything. Call his office, set up that first private, no-charge consultation. That office telephone number is 314-878-6868. Got about 3 minutes here, Doctor.
You know, it's funny. I realized something that when we hit the commercial break, and that first commercial hit, and what they're talking about is your sovereign right to be your most awesomeness. Our founding fathers, the people that wrote our Declaration of Independence, knew about this energy system that we're in right now. They understood it at a very deep level of reality. And they made a declaration of that you are an individual. You are free. You are a complete and utter human being. You have the ability to create everything out of anything, as long as do it with complete and utter success and abundance. And there's nothing that is tells you no, except your own self. And as you feedback with what's going on, and you work with the other people that also are free and have the same abilities that you do and that can do it, and as we all put our minds and our bodies and our energies together, we will literally live in a free world. And our country is literally designed for that. And it's not just a United States thing, it's a global thing. It's a universal thing. And if you're not living that, it's because you allowed yourself, unbeknownst or beknownst to your own self now, that you've been duped and that you've been living a story that you can't, that you're really not free, that that abundance really doesn't quite come to you from within you. And that's so far from the truth, and so far from the truth of what this whole entire country was built on. And so I urge everybody to just start building your lifestyle to become more coherent with I cans, to become more coherent with your with freedom, of totality, of abundance, and letting go of can'ts, won'ts, and will nots.
Great advice. Great place to end the show, Doctor. We appreciate you being with us.
You have a good one, John. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thank you. That's it for the day. That's it for the week. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaning, your essential oils now while you can, your firearms, ammunition. Never, ever give up your guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day and weekend. See you Monday morning, and God bless America.